Hi everyone, this is Greg, and this is a kind of sequel to the last episode in which I talked about 3 bottles I struggled with, but you understand it now, are getting better. So there was a French whiskey called Edu, there was 2 Scottish whiskies, 1 single grain, the RBK Highland Rye, and the Hard American AD0222. So if you want to check it out and haven't seen it, you know where to go on my main YouTube page for videos. Right, today I have almost forgotten about this bottle, but a few days ago I browsed into my American section, and which I have over 30 whiskies. I don't remember now exactly, not much considering the way more amount I have of Scottish whiskies, of course. And I came across this, which had a bit have had a bit of difficulties with this bottle, but then it did improve, and there might have been a year I haven't touched it, something like that. So I thought maybe it was about time to speak about it, especially in the theme of improving improved experience, let's say, about a bottle. And also very quickly, because I'm not as specialized in Northern American whiskies channel, you know that. I'm sorry I don't do more videos about Northern American whiskies. I probably would this year if I can. Now I hesitate to promise because I've a bit slowed down the rhythm. But yeah, I wanted to do a quick kind of shout out to the innovative spirit of the American distilleries, Northern American, but especially United States distilleries. For those who know me by my website, you might remember that I did name, and this is gonna change, Westland Distillery from Seattle as my 2016 Distillery of the Year. I have 3 Westlands X core-range now, because they have decided to melt the 3 core-range expressions into one, and I wasn't aware about that before a few weeks. So looking forward maybe this year to buy a bottle of the new American single malt version, and maybe to deconstruct it with those 3. Who knows? But yeah, Westland, innovative because they dare to use brewery yeast and different kind of degrees of toasting and charring, and different kinds of malted barley. So up to 5, or they can go, I think, up to 7 if they want. Different style, lightly toasted, chocolate malt, etc. So and they now have their own peat, local sourced peat, plus Gariana oak, so local oak if they want, at a certain extent. So what do I mean by this short presentation? I have way more than that, but American Whiskey wise, they can do, the United States can do now, probably with countries that are now developing, exploding, even if the market is smaller. For instance, I am thinking of Australia, where I heard there's a lot of experiments going on. France, of course, is now way more developed than 20 years ago when I started. But for the US and England, etc., but for the US, for instance, I don't have every kind of whiskey possible that's produced there, of course, because most of them are not imported there, especially the craft ones, the tiny boutique distillery ones. They're even too small for the local American market, which is huge. But let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different kind of whiskies from the United States here. I'm not sure I can say the same even for Scotland, even if now Scotland starts to be innovating since only a few years, but they stayed a bit way too much, in my opinion, on their laurels for several centuries, let's say that. So I have straight bourbon from Heaven Hill, Elijah Craig. I also have the 12, of course. I have a wheated bourbon, which is not 100% wheat, but has a significant amount of wheat. This Larson is also Heaven Hill produced. I have a more boutique distillery doing rye. So this is the Few Spirits LLC from Illinois. Haven't reviewed it yet, I know. The others I have talked about on my website. I've talked also about my on my website, about this, which is not your standard Distiller Select or double oaked Woodford Reserve, but straight malt. Straight malt, because they have used their 51% of malted barley. So the result is very interesting. I should do a video about that, with a kind of compromise between a straight bourbon and Scottish single malt. So you see they're doing a lot of things. Of course, this one is innovative. I'm gonna talk about it in a second. But also, just very quick, for instance, Koval is one of the distilleries, the recent distilleries in the US, which has a more, I think probably the most important array of different grains used. Oat, millet, millet in France, a lot of different kind of cereals, like some combinations as well. Balcones, unfortunately, Balcones and Iron Root, and even the two others I'm gonna quote, we cannot find them here or expensively through import. So yeah, Balcones use blue corn, the different kinds of things. Also the experiment in the barrels. I've noticed also on Malt Whiskey Yearbook there's the Maplewood Brewery and Distillery, for instance, using a mash that's coming from beer industry, the sour mash pills. They also combine the oat with other things. They can also use the old variety of which is now coming back even in Scotland, Maris Otter barley. I heard also about the Andalusia whiskey, which uses mesquite and oak together, or also doing other experiments. Not the more qualified, to be honest, to speak to you about American whiskey, especially the craft industry and the history of the American whiskey. For more information about that, head over to very serious and very well documented channels like the Mash and Drum, for instance. So there you go. Now about this whiskey, and yeah, the cork broke from the top, so I had to change it. But basically, yeah, you see. But this is, and you're gonna understand why this symbol, this weird throwing in a moment. So it's a dry fly distilling incorporated company based in Washington State. Let me put that here. This is a distillery which was founded in 2007, so quite a new one, a recent one. This is family farm, farm to glass, as they say, farm to bottle distillery, with a tiny 4,500 liters Carl type still, since 2020. Yeah, the place is called Spokane, where the distillery is, and as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the first licensed distillery opened in Washington since the Prohibition, so quite a lot of time. The distillery produces bourbon, so whiskies with bourbon, of bourbon style type, wheat, also of course triticale, we're going to speak about here. They also produced, I didn't know it, single pot still, which is called Eau Danagers, with a few details. There's several versions. Of course, so for those who don't know, single pot still mixes malted and unmalted barley. They also do vodka, gin, and whiskey infused, wheat whiskey infused with coffee beans, 6 years old. Crazy stuff, I guess. Haven't tried it. So what is triticale? Triticale, so this is a straight triticale whiskey, so it means it is made in majority with they say, the distillery says it's an old Scottish hybrid rye and wheat recipe. I have no other information about that. The website of the distillery is very discreet on a lot of things, very short and based a lot on exposing his products. Now, why this dry fly, this weird thing there? And the best for me, I think, is to read what they say there. Sometimes in the back label, sometimes fly fishermen experiment on the side of the river to find the perfect solution to catch a trophy trout. So, as they say, a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at work, overhead on the spring creek. So they also say on the back label, Triticale is a dry fly experiment and it has won international acclaim. It's an old Scottish hybrid of wheat and rye. Yeah, and then it's marketing stuff. Triticale represents the best each grain has to offer. What do they say else? It's 45% ABV. It's a small batch produced product. And why did I bought that? There was an offer. Here's my sheet. Initially the price was around 75 euros, so quite expensive. In France, it's imported by La Maison du Whisky. Once again, for a lot of products. And I had it on offer on Black Friday, this kind of things, where I had it for 36, something like that, 36.50. And thanks to Xavier, who helped me to get that before it was too late, a friend of mine. Yeah, it's small. I noted there, I don't know where it come from. I mean, where I sourced it, sorry, they have small column steel. They use small column steel, right? Haven't double checked that prior to the review, sorry. So this whiskey is mixing wheat, blé en français, and rye, seigle in French. And at the beginning, when I like both types of whiskey, grain for whiskey, and at the beginning I thought, what a weird combination, and on the palate as well, and I didn't really enjoy it, and I found it a bit disjointed, a bit complicated, and I let it breathe, and it improved a bit while I was still struggling with it. And a few days ago I had another sip of it and I said, ooh, this has improved a lot, so why not make a review of it? Okay, enough talk. Let's go to the whiskey now. So, as you can see, it's quite, it's 3 years old, but it's already quite brown. I mean, a bit amber. The legs are sticking quite some time. They don't say it, but I assume it's non-chill filtered. I have no infos about that. Of course, like every American whiskey, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not colored. They're not allowed to add color. So the nose now, which was a bit solventy, a bit weird, is now way more approachable. This is combining the sweet vanilla driven and grainy wheat note on the nose, plus of course that kind of bready, spicy thing that the rye provides. There's some warm baking spices, you say in the US, I think, and me, I say sweet spices and or Christmas spices. So it's cinnamon, clove, and nutmeg. Cinnamon is in French cannelle, cloves girofle, and nutmeg is muscade. So there's those three things coming across on the nose, on the second ground, and then vanilla, some vanilla and caramel. Quite nice nose, to be honest. Let's see what's going on the palate now. Cheers. Okay, it's not very long on the palate, but it has it stays a bit, lingers still a bit. Decent length on the palate for a 3 years old. Bear in mind, 3 years old, it's not much, even if it's American climate, but it's Washington, it's not Texas. So it has become, see, it's not so far under the neck pour, but it has become very nicely melted. Don't know how it will evolve. Maybe I will come back to you, talk about it there, I don't know. But all in all, very nice, very complex, melted, pleasant experience. Let's go back to it before I add a few drops. Yeah, it's pleasant, charming, even seductive now. It wasn't at all at the beginning. It has something of the pastry register. Had the chance to be in the US only once, but in 2002 on the East Coast. And I tried several times some beautiful pecan pies, and this reminds me a bit of that. So also not only the pastry, but some dried fruits, pecan nut, macadamia nut, cashew nut, plus some nicely sweet caramel that you just poured hot on the, maybe on some biscuits, on some cookies, or even on a sponge cake, I don't know. Let me tell you, my first notes were floral, fruity, refined, a bit herbaceous, and on the palate, first try, I got some lokum, which is Turkish delight. Yeah, I forgot to mention. Some dried herbs. I had some pear and even chili pepper on 5 berries, 5 poivre, 5 berries pepper, ginger, solvent, dried fruits. What is this? I cannot even read myself. Oh, okay. I had some kind of unwanted notes, flows like head or tails of distillation, but those are gone from the second tasting. Okay, I also said that there were a lot of tannins from the oak. You know that tannins can come from oak or from previous content when it's wine. So it has improved a lot. It is sweet, it's nice, it's balanced. Let's put a few drops and finish up the review, hoping you find it interesting. Some of the whiskies on the table I will definitely come back to maybe all, I don't know, when I have the occasion. But yeah, I like to talk in this channel of whiskies maybe you don't hear a lot elsewhere. I'm sorry if you cannot find them. I think this is worth having a look. I'm quite curious of their other proposals, but they're all not cheap and not all available all the time. They do also a port finish wheated whiskey, cask strength wheat. This will be could be interesting, I think, if I can find it here. Okay, so vanilla comes across more with a few drops. Oh yeah, some not black, let's say mixed, yeah, 5 berries, because tiny acidulous thing, plus a bit of yeah, maybe white pepper, grey pepper, but ginger, but it is now very sweet. I changed the cork quickly, so it's not a question of too much evaporation, but it really settled down well. So quite pleasant whiskey, vanilla, caramel again, and some fruits, but on the backside. And again, this beautiful combination of wheat and rye. Let's pause a second, and then I will give you my current score for this whiskey. Okay, so this whiskey obtains an 86.5 out of 100, so quite a nice score, more than decent, especially when it started around 74. 2.5, to be honest, it's a spectacular recovery, if I may say. So now value for money at 75 euros. I have no idea how it is sold, what is sold for in the US. Please tell me maybe if you know this whiskey in the comment, and if you have tried other expressions, which one you recommend. But at 36.5 with the bargain I had, this is a solid and very good value. And also it brings something different to the table than your usual bourbon or rye, or even single malt from the US. So I recommend it if you can find a decent price. So that's it for today. I hope it was interesting. Tell me if you want in the comment, and a big wave, a big hi to my American viewers and YouTubers and all the guys I'm chatting with. For instance, in channel I recommend Scotch Down Under over in Australia. So let me know about your favorite experimental American whiskey, or just your experience with innovators in American whiskey distilling. Thank you very much, and see you soon. Bye.